You think you're confident. You believe you're projecting strength. But right now, as you listen to this, there are invisible signals you're broadcasting to everyone around you, signals that scream desperation without making a single sound. The woman across from you notices it. Your boss sees it. Your friends feel it. And the worst part? You have absolutely no idea you're doing it. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. But here's what most men miss entirely. It's not what you say that reveals your weakness. It's the subtle behaviors you've never examined. The unconscious patterns that announce to the world, "I need your approval to feel whole." Today, I'm going to expose 5 things that make men look desperate without ever realizing it. These aren't obvious mistakes. These are the silent assassins of respect, the invisible chains that keep capable men trapped in lives smaller than they deserve. And here's what separates this from everything else you've heard. I'm not going to just tell you what to stop doing. I'm going to show you what the Stoic masters understood about human nature over 2,000 years ago, and how to transform these weaknesses into unshakable strength. If you recognize yourself in even one of these behaviors, you're already ahead. Because awareness is the first step toward power. But if you refuse to see what I'm about to reveal, you'll continue broadcasting desperation to everyone around you, while wondering why respect and opportunity always seem just out of reach. Let me tell you about 2 men. The first man enters a room and immediately begins talking, explaining his job, his accomplishments, why he made certain choices in life. He laughs a little too loud at jokes that aren't funny. He responds to every text message within minutes. He shifts his opinions the moment he senses disagreement. By the end of the night, everyone knows everything about him. And strangely, no one wants to know more. The second man enters the same room. He speaks less. He listens more. He seems comfortable in silence, almost like he's choosing to be there rather than needing to be there. When he does speak, people lean in. He doesn't explain his choices. He doesn't seek validation. And when he leaves, something remarkable happens. Everyone wants to know more about him. Same room, same people. Completely different results. The difference isn't charisma. It isn't looks or status or money. The difference is what I call invisible desperation, the unconscious energy of neediness that radiates from a man who hasn't anchored himself internally. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus, a former slave who became one of history's greatest philosophers, taught that freedom comes not from controlling your circumstances, but from controlling your response to them. The desperate man tries to control how others see him. The Stoic man controls how he sees himself. And paradoxically, this is exactly what changes how others see him. Let's break down exactly where this desperation hides. Number 1, over-explaining your decisions. Here's a scene that plays out every single day. A man makes a choice. Maybe he declines an invitation, takes a new job, or ends a relationship. And then, without being asked, he launches into a detailed justification of why he did it. I'm not going to the party because, I've had a really exhausting week and my energy levels aren't great. Plus, I need to be up early tomorrow. And honestly, the last few times weren't that fun anyway. But it's not that I don't want to see you guys. It's just that, stop. Every word after "I'm not going" is a withdrawal from your account of respect. Every justification you add without being asked is an announcement to the world. I'm afraid you won't approve of my choice. I need you to understand so you won't judge me. Seneca wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." The over-explainer suffers from imagined judgment. He's responding to criticism that hasn't been spoken. He's defending against attacks that exist only in the courtroom of his own insecurity. The Stoic approach is what I call anchored brevity. When you make a decision, you state it. You own it. If someone asks why, you can explain. But you don't preemptively defend your existence. Think of it like this. The desperate man walks into a courtroom already apologizing, presenting evidence for why he should be forgiven, before anyone has even accused him of anything. The wise man walks in knowing that no defense is needed unless a charge is formally made. This connects to the fundamental Stoic principle, the dichotomy of control. Your decisions are within your control. Other people's opinions are not. When you over-explain, you're attempting to manipulate something outside your domain. And that attempt itself broadcasts weakness to everyone watching. Here's the practice. Next time you make a decision, state it once. Then stop. Let the silence exist. The discomfort you feel in that silence? That's the sensation of freedom trying to break through years of conditioning. Sit with it. Breathe through it. Eventually, you'll realize that most of the time, no explanation was ever required. The need existed entirely within your own mind. Number 2, excessive availability. There was a man I once observed who treated his phone like a lifeline to his self-worth. Every notification demanded immediate response. Every invitation was accepted. Every request was accommodated. He believed this made him valuable. He thought being always available meant being always wanted. But here's the truth the Stoics understood about human psychology. What is always available is rarely valued. Consider water. In a lush rainforest with streams flowing everywhere, water has almost no perceived value. You step over it. You ignore it. But in the heart of a scorching desert, that same water becomes more precious than gold. The substance is identical. The value transformed completely because of scarcity. When you are always available, always responding instantly, always free, always ready to abandon your own priorities for someone else's agenda, you send a clear signal to everyone around you. My time has no value. My attention costs nothing. I am waiting here to be used. This isn't about playing manipulative games or being artificially distant. This is about a fundamental truth I call strategic scarcity. You cannot give away what you don't possess, and you cannot maintain what you refuse to protect. Marcus Aurelius, arguably the most powerful man in the Roman Empire, guarded his time with fierce discipline. He understood that attention is the most valuable currency any human being possesses. Where you direct your attention, you direct your power. And if you scatter that power freely to whoever demands it, you will have nothing left for what truly matters. The desperate man is always available because he fears abandonment. He believes that if he isn't instantly accessible, people will forget him. They'll choose someone else. They'll move on. So he hovers by his phone, waiting. The Stoic man is selectively available because he recognizes a deeper truth. Presence without scarcity is presence without weight. Here's the transformation. Stop responding to every message immediately. Create intentional space between request and response, not from manipulation, but from genuine commitment to your own priorities. Let people experience your absence occasionally. Let them feel the full weight of your attention when you do choose to give it. The man who is always there is never missed. But the man who has built a purposeful, demanding life and shares his time selectively becomes someone worth pursuing, worth waiting for, worth earning. Number 3, seeking validation through achievement. This one cuts deep because it hides behind something that appears to be strength. Many men become accomplishment machines. They stack degrees and certifications. They collect promotions and titles. They acquire visible status symbols. And beneath each achievement, buried where they refuse to look, lies a desperate question. Do you see me now? Am I worthy now? Am I finally enough? It's the dixu. The desperation here isn't obvious because it wears the convincing mask of ambition. But the Stoics would pierce through it instantly. Seneca wrote, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." And one of the greatest wastes imaginable is spending your entire life climbing a ladder, only to discover at the top that it was leaning against the wrong wall, the wall of other people's approval. I call this the validation trap. Here's how it operates. You achieve something significant. You feel a momentary surge of worthiness, but the feeling fades, sometimes within hours. So you need another achievement, then another. Each one must be slightly larger because your tolerance has built up. You become addicted to external proof of internal value, but you never actually feel worthy because the worth was never generated internally. It was always borrowed, always temporary, always dependent on the next accomplishment. Viktor Frankl, the psychiatrist who survived the Nazi concentration camps and developed logotherapy, understood this with painful clarity. He wrote that success, like happiness, cannot be pursued directly. It must ensue. It has to be the unintended byproduct of a life devoted to meaning, not the explicit goal. The Stoic man pursues excellence because excellence is intrinsically valuable. He develops himself because growth matters for its own sake, not because someone might finally notice and grant him permission to feel worthy. When you create from this internal place, the same achievements carry an entirely different energy. People can sense the difference between a man who produces from overflow and a man who performs for applause. Here's how to test yourself honestly. Imagine accomplishing your biggest goal, but no one ever discovers it. No recognition, no praise, no social media announcement. Would it still feel worth doing? Would the pursuit still matter? If the answer is no, if the achievement only holds meaning when witnessed by others, then you're not pursuing excellence at all. You're purchasing validation on an installment plan you can never pay off. The practice is this: begin doing things that will never be seen. Work on yourself in complete silence. Build skills nobody will praise. Let your growth become invisible. When you can find genuine satisfaction in improvement that goes entirely unwitnessed, you've shattered the chains of the validation trap. Number 4. Reacting emotionally to every slight. There's a single moment that reveals everything about a man's internal architecture. It's never when circumstances favor him. Anyone can maintain composure and comfort. The revealing moment arrives when someone criticizes him, when someone disrespects him, when reality collides violently with his expectations. The desperate man ignites instantly. His emotional state becomes hostage to the opinions of whoever happens to be nearby. A harsh comment demolishes his afternoon. A perceived insult demands immediate, escalating retaliation. He believes he's protecting his honor. What he's actually broadcasting to everyone watching is this: I am so fundamentally fragile that your words control the entire weather system of my inner world. Epictetus delivered this teaching with razor precision. It's not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things. When someone insults you, the insult is merely words, sound waves vibrating through air molecules. The actual damage occurs inside you, manufactured in the interpretive space between the event and your chosen response. The Stoics identified what they called the ruling faculty, the command center of your mind that assigns meaning to every experience. The desperate man has abandoned his ruling faculty to anyone who speaks in his direction. The wise man guards his ruling faculty like a fortress surrounded by impenetrable walls. Let me offer you a metaphor that will stay with you. Imagine your mind as a lake. When someone hurls a stone into a shallow lake, the disruption is catastrophic. Waves surge in every direction, sediment clouds the water, chaos reigns. But when that identical stone enters a genuinely deep lake, a small ripple on the surface, then stillness returns. Your emotional depth determines your emotional stability. The man who combusts at every perceived slight has no depth whatsoever. He's entirely surface. The man who maintains composure isn't suppressing his emotions through force. He's simply too deep for surface disturbances to reach his essential core. This is what I call becoming the unshakable witness, developing the capacity to observe provocation without being possessed by it. Here's the practice. When you feel the heat of anger rising, when you feel triggered and reactive, deliberately insert a pause. Physically, slow your breathing. Feel your feet against the ground. Then ask yourself this question: what story am I telling myself about what this means about me? Because here's the Stoic truth that changes everything. It's never the event that wounds you. It's the narrative you construct about what the event signifies. And consider this: most apparent slights aren't even about you. The person who cut you off in traffic isn't contemplating your existence. The colleague who made a harsh comment is processing their own frustration, their own insecurities, their own bad morning. When you react explosively, you grant them power over you that they never even requested. The transformation: become the deep lake. Let stones fall. Watch the ripple form. Then return to perfect stillness. This isn't weakness disguised as calm. This is the most formidable strength available to any human being. Number 5. Apologizing for your existence. This is the most insidious form of desperation because it's been so thoroughly trained into modern men that most can't even detect it anymore. Listen to yourself. Really listen. Sorry, but I think maybe we should. Sorry to bother you, but could you. So sorry, can I just add something here? Sorry for having this opinion, but count how many times in a single day you apologize when no genuine wrong has been committed. Count how many times you reflexively soften your presence, shrink your occupied space, preemptively minimize your existence so that others won't feel threatened by the simple fact that you're standing there. This is not politeness. This is systematic self-erasure, and everyone in your vicinity can feel it radiating off you. History remembers Cato the Younger, the Stoic philosopher and Roman senator. He was renowned for his absolute refusal to compromise his principles, even when facing Julius Caesar at the peak of his terrifying power. Cato didn't apologize for his positions. He didn't soften his presence to make tyrants feel comfortable in his company. He stood in his truth with such immovable certainty that even his sworn enemies respected him, even as they orchestrated his destruction. I'm not telling you to become aggressive or deliberately inconsiderate. The Stoics valued genuine kindness and service to others as core virtues. But there's an ocean of difference between authentic courtesy and the chronic disease of self-diminishment. The desperate man apologizes relentlessly because he believes at a cellular level that his very presence is an imposition on others, that his thoughts are unwelcome intrusions, that he must pay a constant apology tax simply for occupying space that someone else might theoretically want. The Stoic man operates from fundamentally different beliefs. He has every right to exist here. His thoughts carry genuine value. His presence is a contribution, not a burden. He doesn't apologize for being who he is. He offers who he is with quiet, earned confidence. This is what I call the quiet power principle. True strength announces itself through presence alone, never through defensive explanation. When you constantly apologize for existing, you train the world to dismiss you before you've spoken. When you communicate with calm, grounded certainty, you demonstrate worth that requires no external defense. Here's the practical transformation. Systematically eliminate unnecessary apologies from your vocabulary. When you have a thought worth sharing, deliver it directly. Say, I think, instead of sorry, but I think maybe. When you need to make a request, make it cleanly and clearly. Can you help me with this? Instead of, sorry to bother you, but could you maybe possibly help me if it's not too much trouble? Watch what shifts around you. At first, you'll feel exposed, raw, almost naked without your protective layer of apologies. But within days, you'll notice something profound changing in how others respond. People take you more seriously. Your words carry more gravitational weight because you've finally stopped training everyone around you to dismiss what you have to say. Now let me weave these 5 revelations into a single tapestry. Over-explaining, excessive availability, validation seeking through achievement, emotional reactivity to every slight, apologizing for your very existence. These aren't 5 separate problems requiring 5 separate solutions. They're symptoms of one root condition, a man who has not yet anchored his identity in his own depths. The Stoics called this essential work turning inward. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private meditations, "Nowhere can a man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." The man who has constructed this interior fortress doesn't require external validation to feel worthy. He doesn't need to manipulate how others perceive him because he has achieved absolute clarity on how he perceives himself. Let me paint a picture of your future. 6 months from now, you've systematically dismantled these desperate behaviors through daily practice. You speak with anchored brevity and genuine conviction. You protect your time and attention like the irreplaceable treasures they truly are. You pursue excellence for its inherent worth, not for the applause of spectators. You respond to provocation from a place of deep, unshakable stillness. You move through the world without apologizing for the space your existence requires. See that man in your mind. Feel what it would be like to inhabit his body, to think his thoughts, to walk through his days. That vision isn't fantasy. That's the man you become when you commit to applying what you've absorbed today.